Welcome back, my friends. Currently, we're on day 352 of Russia's disastrous invasion of Ukraine, and Russia more than likely lost dozens of armored vehicles near the Ukrainian town of Vuhledar. Russian forces likely lost dozens of armored vehicles in a single failed attack near the eastern Ukrainian city of Vuhledar. This is according to British intelligence, as one pro-Russian blogger warned of a crisis in troop command. So pro-Russian bloggers are not happy about this failed attack. Vuhledar is a Ukrainian-held bastion at the strategic intersection between the eastern and southern front lines. So if you're not familiar with where this is on the map, here's the Donbas region. Bakhmut is much farther north. Vuhledar is down here, closer to the Zaporizhia Oblast. And there's videos. There's videos of the Russians just being entirely annihilated. Now, this is a video posted to the Ministry of Defense official Twitter account, 1.8 million followers. And I can't show you the videos because that violates YouTube's policy on violence, but I will link these videos in a pinned comment down below if you want to see the devastation for yourself. This video is titled Vuhledar Massacre. And I just feel like the last couple weeks there's been an increase in these drone surveillance videos of Russians just getting annihilated. I do follow some of these channels and I watch these videos. I can't share them on YouTube, obviously, but it's just getting horrendous. Just seeing these Russian human wave attacks at fortified Ukrainian positions. I don't understand what Russia's objective here. These videos are absolutely horrifying to watch, and I can't imagine what the average Russian citizen thinks of them. Once again, pinned comment down below if you want to check them out. And here is an interesting satellite image of the area of the city of Vuhledar. So this is Pavlivka. The Russians took this, I think, last November. And from here to Vuhledar, this isn't even a kilometer. This is a very small distance. But you can see all of the black pockmarks on the surface of the Earth from all of the artillery shells being fired. So here's the map without the lines drawn in. But here are the lines. The red is what Russia controls. This gray area is no man's land. And then the blue is what Ukrainian forces control. And this is pretty fascinating to see. Where are the Russians attacking? Because the ground has not been fully solid and it's been very muddy, the Russians are attacking and they're still sticking to the roads. So you can see their attempts to advance. Every time they advance, Ukrainian artillery starts opening fire. And this is Shevchenko. You can also see it on roads over here. Every time they try to advance along one of these roads, Ukrainian artillery opens fire. So I think along the roads, more than likely this is Ukrainians firing. And then obviously here in the city, this is the Russians trying to destroy absolutely everything and force Ukrainian defenders in the city just to surrender. You can't even really call it a city. It's a very small village. And hasta la vista, baby, Ukraine kills its first Russian Terminator combat vehicle. The rare BMPT Terminator was sent to Ukraine in the early months of the conflict, but this is the first confirmed kill of one of these vehicles. So Ukrainian forces have put an advanced Russian BMPT Terminator armed fighter vehicle out of commission for the first time. This is according to Ukrainian Marines. The Terminator is a relatively new addition to Russia's ground arsenal, and only a small number of them are known to be in service. So this is a propaganda vehicle that they drag out during parades every year. But we got the video, once again posted to the Ministry of Defense's Twitter account, and can't play the video, but this Russian Terminator is about to get hit by probably an Excalibur round. Once again, I'll link this in a pinned comment down below. And as Russia's losses in Ukraine spike, those tracking the deaths are feeling overwhelmed. So, an independent media outlet tallying the number of Russian military fatalities in Ukraine advertised this week for volunteers because, for the first time since the start of the war, it did not have enough people to process the incoming reports of Russian deaths. Mediazona's staffing issues are just one of a series of recent indicators that Russia is suffering particularly high casualties in Ukraine as it intensifies military efforts ahead of what some believe is an imminent offensive. I honestly can't tell you, is this the imminent offensive or is this just some random waste of soldiers and materials? I honestly can't tell you. And as the Russian ground forces continue to perform so terribly, the Russian military still feels the need to terrorize the Ukrainian civilian population far behind the front lines. Russia launched their latest wave of missile attacks against civilian targets, but this time it was kind of a reduced number. 6 caliber cruise missiles, 7 Shahed drones, and 35 S-300 guided anti-aircraft missiles. Normally these should be shooting things out of the sky, but once again, Russia is running out of the good stuff, so they're repurposing S-300 missiles to go from ground to air to ground to ground. For a report in the field, here is Maria Avdieva.
For the second time since morning air raid sounds in Ukraine, all night Ukraine was attacked by Shahed drones, later with S-300 missiles, then cruise missiles were launched on Ukraine, hitting 6 regions, infrastructural objects in 6 regions of Ukraine. And now again we hear air sirens, and it means that Russia is not going to stop. And this is why Ukraine asks for more weapons, for fighter jets, for air defense system, to protect our cities, to protect civilians in Ukraine.
So if we reflect on what is the purpose of these attacks, Russian state media 4 months ago was saying, well, we're going to knock out their electrical grid and we're going to freeze them out this winter. It'll be so cold in Ukraine that the civilian governments will just surrender to Russia and the war will be over. We're almost halfway through February. Does it look like this plan of freezing the Ukrainians out this winter is going to work? And it's not. Ukraine is not going to surrender just because Russia continues to attack their civilian electrical grid. Now, Ukrainian air defenses still are performing great. 5 out of 6 caliber cruise missiles were shot down, 5 out of 7 of the Shahed drones, and probably close to 90% of the S-300s. And Ukraine is now insisting that Russia violated NATO airspace during the February 10th mass missile strike. So this is interesting. This is from the Zaluzny. He's the commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Today, February 10th at 10:18 a.m., 2 Russian caliber cruise missiles crossed the state border of Ukraine into Moldova. At 10:33, these missiles crossed the airspaces of Romania, a NATO country. After that, the missiles again entered the airspace of Ukraine. So on the map, this is what is happening. This is what it looks like. Russian ships in the Black Sea hiding behind Crimea are firing towards civilian targets in western Ukraine. And I think this is on purpose. I think Russia is deliberately trying to have the flight path be over Moldova. One, because they don't care about the sovereignty of Moldova. They were always going to attack them next. But this is probably where Ukraine's air defense systems are the weakest. If you wanted to attack Lviv, you could fire from Russia, you could fire from Belarus, but Ukrainian air defense systems are probably better in the north. So Russia's deliberately violating Moldova's airspace to have a higher chance of success attacking western Ukraine. Now, did a cruise missile briefly go over Romanian airspace in this north part up here? Well, Romania is denying that Russian missiles crossed country in their latest attack on Ukraine. I don't know what Romania's thoughts or position on if this actually happened, but if it did, if cruise missiles did briefly travel through Romanian airspace, I don't see the advantage to Romania to admitting that it happened. We're not going to invoke Article 5 over this, similar to the incident of the S-300 landing in Poland. I think NATO is going to just say, what was the intent? What was the damage? And can we convince the Russians to not do this again? I mean, more than likely, yeah, I think a missile briefly crossed over Romanian airspace, but I don't think anything's going to come of it. Now, concerning Moldova, Moldova accuses Russia of destabilization attempts, and it's worked. The pro-Western Moldovan prime minister has officially resigned, and her coalition government has collapsed. So I guess the president of Moldova has to now appoint a intermediate prime minister, and maybe they have to have elections again sometime soon. And Moldova is just a very difficult situation because it's a very poor country that's also very small. Their population is only 2.5 million people. To put that in perspective, there are more people living in the city of Chicago here in the United States. And the Russian military has been occupying part of their country for almost 30 years. So in this border region called Transnistria, there are currently about 1,500 Russian soldiers. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think these Russian soldiers are capable of being rotated in or out. Because the borders are closed and the airspace is closed, I think those Russian soldiers in Transnistria currently are trapped and they can't really be resupplied or do anything effectively for the war effort. Now you can see from these green shaded regions in the opening weeks of the war, the Russian military bypassed Mykolaiv and they were trying to go west to connect with Russian military forces in Transnistria. The plan probably was to block off all the roads to Odessa and then starve out the city until they surrendered. Thankfully, that never happened. Odessa was never seriously threatened by the Russians. But it's obvious the Russian plan was always to take the entire coastline of Ukraine and to push into Moldova and go all the way to the Romanian border. Now here's a report from the UK Defense Ministry. Both sides likely to avoid major offensives in March due to muddy conditions. So we're currently in the month of February, and the ground might be cold and solid enough for armored vehicles to cross open fields. I do think Russia is going to attempt more offensive actions this February, but once we get into March and April and the weather starts to warm up, we're back into mud season in Ukraine, and it'll just be impossible to move armored vehicles unless you're using roads. And as I've shown you from that satellite photo, roads are very dangerous in Ukraine. So here is a bizarre interview that Prigozhin gave, and he was asked the question, how long do you think it will take for Russian forces to take the entirety of the Donbas region?
Если нам надо идти до Днепра, то тогда года на 3. Если нам надо закрыть ДНР, ЛНР, ну, надо еще хотя бы годика 1,5-2 поработать. Если нам нужно дойти до Ла-Манша, то тогда у меня есть свой идеальный план. Мы должны по-человечески...
So he's saying, and I've joked about this on my channel, the rate of advance not being terribly impressive for the world's second most powerful military. But he's saying for the Russian forces in the Donbas region to get to the Dnieper River, this is about 200 kilometers. He's saying this will take 3 years. But in order to take the entirety of the DPR, LPR, the Donbas region, he's saying this will take 1.5 to 2 years. 1.5 to 2 years for the Russian military to go about 100 kilometers. I don't think that they can sustain that rate of loss of their armored vehicles, artillery systems, and infantry. They're losing tens of thousands of soldiers every month, but even Prigozhin and the brass at the Russian military, they're now being more realistic, saying, yeah, it's going to take us 2 years to go about 100 kilometers. But it's not going to be the Wagner group capturing the Donbas region over the next 2 years. And the reason why is the Wagner group is officially being cut off from their stream of recruits. Now, Prigozhin himself has announced that the Wagner mercenaries will no longer be recruiting from prisons inside of Russia. And the reason why is that Prigozhin has become a liability for Putin because he's been so aggressive in his PR campaign and his Russian machoism. He's become very popular amongst pro-war Russian bloggers, and no one's allowed to be popular except Putin. So sources report prisons are preparing for mass paroles, and convicts will be conscripted as they are released to coincide with upcoming mobilizations. So the proper Russian military wants to take these prisoners. They don't want the Wagner mercenaries taking them anymore. So if you've been sent to prison for a minor offense or minor crime, you're going to be granted parole. Congratulations. But the second you step outside the prison, there's going to be a bus waiting for you with a conscription commissar handing you your papers saying, congrats, you're now going to Ukraine. So this is interesting. How did this come about? And according to Olga Romanova, the founder of prisoners' rights organization Russia Behind Bars, Prigozhin has been pushed out of the prisons by Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, following political maneuvering in the State Duma late last year. So Prigozhin and Shoigu have been fighting with each other on social media, and it looks like Shoigu is getting the last laugh as he has convinced the State Duma to keep the Wagner mercenaries from recruiting, and Shoigu is now going to take all of these poor prisoners for himself. So let's check in with Russian state media and what kind of crazy things are they saying today.
Помните, это было, мне кажется, могу ошибаться, но, по-моему, это было в первой книге Путина, президента нашего Владимира Владимировича. Мне кажется, у него там была такая фраза, что он исповедует с детства такой принцип, так его научили, что если драка неизбежна, бей первым. Вот и все. Да. Мы же не начинали войну на Украине, в Донбассе. Мы ее заканчиваем. Просто заканчивать ее приходится вот так кроваво.
So we got war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. In order to maintain the states, you must continuously revise your own history to fit today's narrative. We didn't start the war in Ukraine, we didn't start the war in the Donbas, but we're going to finish it our bloody way. I mean, I think she's just rehearsing what she wants to say at her trial at The Hague. Let's check in with Soloviev. How is he doing today? And he's about to lose his sack of potatoes over a technical glitch during his broadcast.
Трансляция, говорят, у нас ушла. Ребят, что происходит? В телеграм-канале есть трансляция или нет? А что проверять ее нет? Что проверять ее нет? Что с технарями? Почему мне пишут люди, а вы этого не видите? Выясните, почему у вас нет трансляции в Телеграме. Ну, конечно, у вас будет только 3746 участников, потому что Телеграм не работает. Не видит трансляции. У нас вообще существует выпускающая служба или нет? Куча людей, которые сидят в аппаратной. Чем занимаются? Хорошо, хоть телевизор.
So he's gonna complain and scream at his staff for another couple minutes, but this guy, wearing a military flannel with name tags and patches, pretending to be a general, screaming on state TV that there's a glitch in his day's broadcast. Seems like a real nice guy to work for. So how is the war going for Russia? And amid the Ukraine war, Kremlin orders nationwide bomb shelters overhaul. Bomb shelters across Russia are undergoing systematic inspections and repairs following a Kremlin order to upgrade the country's crumbling Soviet-era infrastructure. So the Russian military has gone from, we're going to take Kyiv in 3 days, to, hey, maybe we should upgrade and repair all of our Soviet-era bomb shelters because we might get bombed soon. It's going great, Russia. Here's a tweet from the Ukrainian Air Force. Ukraine has submitted an official request to the Netherlands for the supply of F-16 fighters. This was confirmed by the Dutch Minister of Defense. And Dutch politicians are turning to their prime minister with a proposal that the Netherlands take the lead in establishing a fighter jet coalition for Ukraine, also to donate Dutch F-16s and to immediately start training Ukrainian pilots on modern fighter jets. Fantastic news all around. Thank you so much, the Netherlands. And here's an update because the UK also did state that they would start training Ukrainian pilots on Western aircraft, and it looks like they will be training on the UK Typhoon. So this is the Eurofighter Typhoon. This is a twin-engine multi-role fighter that is represents the UK, Germany, Italy, and Spain. So between these countries, they might be able to gather together a couple jets, but I think at this Ramstein meeting coming up in a week or two, there will be an announcement about planes, and similar to tanks, unfortunately, Ukraine probably won't get all just one system. They're going to get several different planes from different countries, and their maintainers will have to find a way to make it work. Last couple clips I have for you. The first one is of a Ukrainian defender by the name of Roman, and he's actually been putting out some pretty good videos on social media lately. He is stationed on the front lines near the city of Bakhmut, and he's going to explain to you their sleep and rest cycle.
Коли на дворі мінус 10 градусів, постояв на посту і зараз є 2 годинки відпочити. Перше, що я роблю, це розуваюсь, тому що ноги задебеніли повністю. Залажу повністю в спальник і намагаюся ці 2 години просто відігрітись, тому що потім знову йти на пост, стояти, видивлятись ворогів і прикривати побратимів, які теж відпочивають. І так, 2 години через 2 години. Не знаю, цілу добу, можливо, трохи більше. Але, насправді все окей, просто дуже холодно, і вороги тут всюди, і дуже близько. А так все нормально, все дуже навіть добре.
That's interesting how they handle rotations in the trenches on the very front. Nobody is getting proper rest or sleep in the trenches with artillery and gunfire happening. So what they do is they have somebody watching for about 2 hours, remaining vigilant, and then they're allowed to get some rest. So they switch out with somebody. They then just switch back and forth continuously for about 30 hours, and then they get to probably rotate farther back in order for proper sleep, a good meal, and maybe to shower if they possibly can. So I hope Roman stays safe. Final clip I have for you is, this might get blocked for copyright reasons, but I'm going to try and show it anyways. This is a clip from NBC Nightly News, and this Ukrainian woman is going to show her hospitality to this journalist.
The generosity of people here is amazing. They are not letting me leave until I have some of their borscht. They're insisting. I don't want to take any of their food. They don't have very much, but they are insisting. It's so wonderful, so kind, so generous. Thank you. I have no choice. Okay.
Проходите, садитесь. Мы найдем общий язык. Мы найдем общий язык.
This is borscht.
Borscht.
Your borscht. Beautiful.
Borscht.
You know what? In all the years that I've been doing journalism, I've always found the people who are the most generous are generally the people who have the least to
Второй
give.
человек, садитесь, пожалуйста.
The people who have the least are oftentimes the most willing to share. That's all for this update video. Glory to the heroes, glory to Ukraine. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support my channel. Comments or questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, take care, be safe.